All right, Thunder Wizards. So I am live here. This is where I am. It's Friday. So in a lot of the world, it's still Thursday. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about something that was sparked by the question I got a couple days ago and the video that I did yesterday about the runes and the elements. And I started thinking about the runes and the chakras. And so we're going to do an experiment. You're going to find out now one of the ways that I work, one of the ways that I research and discover things. I'm going to make a prediction, which I haven't proven yet. You are going to be witness to me either proving or disproving this theory I'm going to float, which is that since the runes are made of Kundalini fire, which is what I said in the video last night, since the runes are made of Kundalini fire, then they must have a correspondence with the chakras. So chanting the runes must have an effect on the awakening of Kundalini up the spine, which will then result in a direct correspondence with each rune with different chakras. I haven't proven this yet. This is just what I'm thinking. And you're going to follow with me as I find this out. Whether we have live people following or not. So we have 9 people who are watching so far. So okay, everything seems to be functioning well on the YouTube aspect of things. All right. So here's how this is going to work. First thing I'm going to do is I am going to lay some foundational assumptions based on my experience and based on what I know. Remember, I go back to the video not too long ago where I talked about how to determine what a false teacher is. And I talked a lot about critical thinking. And I explained to you that everything starts with an assumption. And if you build upon that assumption, if the assumption is correct, then you will come to correct conclusions. If you start a theory with a false or incomplete assumption, then at best your conclusions will be partially correct, incomplete, or totally incorrect. So I am starting with the assumption that Kundalini is, that the runes are fire. Because somebody asked earlier, what are the elements, in the runes? And I remember saying something about it, that doesn't work for me. And then I really thought about it, and I realized, well, it doesn't work for me because the runes are Kundalini fire. That isn't coming from any proof. That is my own personal instinct and intuition and my experience. But now you're going to watch me go even deeper with that and either prove or disprove, and I'm going to do it live in front of everybody. Because if you're a spiritual seeker, especially if you're a shaman, you're a scientist. What do scientists do? Scientists want to find the truth, and they do that through experimentation. You must test, you must research. Research does not mean reading books, watching videos. That is not research. Research is actually taking data that you can verify. Now, I've done this with a lot of the things that I teach. I had ideas, I had intuitions, and I went, let's go try that. Let's go put that into practice and see if it works. I'll give you one example, which now has become an incredibly powerful tool, which, by the way, you can continue expanding on beyond what I've discovered. I've just barely scratched the surface and opened the door. If you follow the parameters that I've given, you can come up with much deeper associations and connections than I have, and I want you to do that. I mean, I don't need you to do that, but as a teacher, I have no need to be the Pope. I'm just the guy who said, hey, I put these two things and figured it out. What do you think? You take it. So this is what I call the rune wheel. And that came about because I saw that the 8 directions corresponded with the number of runes in each 8. There are 3 8s. 3 8s, 3 1s. And I said, what happens if I put each one of the runes in order in the 8 directions, which is what you see here. And then I associated that with the 9 worlds, and I associated that with the qualities and the elements and the directions and all that, and I went, that's really interesting. And then I created Advanced Rune Shamanism. Courses.thunderwizard.com has all my books, by the way. I'm not just talking here. If you really want to learn what I teach and you want to come onto my channel and you want to ask questions, it'll be very helpful if you actually put the time and effort into researching what I teach so you can ask intelligent questions. I do get offended when I see a bunch of people who are brand new and they're asking a bunch of questions and they clearly have not spent any time researching what I teach. That's okay, you're brand new, it takes time to do that, but I need to let you know these links are here for a reason. Thunderwizard.com if you want to train in shamanism and in runes, in depth, hundreds and hundreds of hours of runes. Thunderwizard.com. Subscribe at the entry level. Courses.thunderwizard.com. All my books, all my DVDs, all my streaming videos, all my services, everything having to do with me, you find there. All right, so that's how I came up with this rune wheel. And I've been using it. And I've been using it to balance when you have runes out of whack. For instance, let's say you do a rune reading on yourself and you come up with Uruz reversed. So that means that you could have health issues, you could have sexual issues, it could mean insecurity, it could mean lack of power, it could mean a lack of determination. You apply it based on whatever the question is, and then you go, well, how do you deal with that? Well, how do you get power and determination if you don't have it? Well, if you follow that directly opposite that in the southwest, you have Kenaj. Kenaj is knowledge. Here's something interesting. I came to that conclusion and I went, so if this is right, then by getting more knowledge about the situation, the knowledge will give me the ability to turn that Uruz right side up, and then I will have determination and power. They say knowledge is power. Now, I came to that conclusion logically following this system that I put together and tested it out to see if it works. Almost, well, not immediately afterwards, but I was spending time with my teacher. What the heck is that? Oh, is that a... There's some like giant bird. Oh, it's a turkey. Just flew. I didn't know those things could fly. There are turkeys all over the place here. Just walking around. I mean, you can't go anywhere without tripping over a turkey. So, not too long after I made this and I wrote my book, and I was listening to my teacher, who I was having a group session with him, and somebody asked a question about something. I don't remember what. And he was asking, well, what is it? I can't remember what it was. What is it that you need to do? And somebody said, I don't know. I'm confused. And he said, the interesting thing about confusion, which would be Kenaj reversed, he says, you know what it is that you need to do. You're just not putting the determination into doing it. He says the same is true if you lack determination, if you lack commitment to something, it means that you're confused. And once you work through the confusion and you become aware of what it is that you need, which you really do, then all of a sudden you have the power. And I went, holy crap, this guy knows nothing about the runes, and he just got through. So I was like, these things, you see what I mean? You put these things together in practical experimentation, you find out it's true. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that today. Before I do that, I got to give you some background. Why have I come to this conclusion? Well, we're starting with assumptions, okay, and then we're going to look at the truth of that. And to do that, we look at the objective data. We do what happens lots of times is I'll get an inspiration about how something works. That's kind of the thing. I mean, you can't really be a true teacher, I got to be honest with you, unless you have some intuitive ability to connect and understand things. And these things have to come to you from the universe. The difference between a deluded nutbag is he gets all kinds of stuff that doesn't make any sense that he can't prove or can't put together. Or you have a bunch of people like I've seen. I'm going to tell you the majority of rune books out there are people who do what I'm about to say, who sit and write runes stuff and just try and paste, stream of thought, superficial connections to them. This is why people say that Hagalaj is danger because it's hail. And yeah, if you walk around and there's big giant hailstones the size of softballs and you're walking around without a helmet and they hit you on the head, it's going to be dangerous. So people go, see, hail, Hagel means danger, stop. It doesn't mean that. It means healing. You can't know that unless you actually have some intuitive knowledge and you put it into practice. So, the runes are the ancient Germanic language that I believe has also been used as a way to initiate people into spiritual knowledge. I believe that this is what our Ice Age European Germanic ancestors did, that from father to son they taught them the runes one by one, and each time that the child as they got older would chant the runes, it would open up awarenesses within them. And so it was a way of giving magical power and wisdom and knowledge. And I spell that all out in my book. I won't go through that here. The first book, Rune Shamanism. Go check that out. So the Germanic peoples are descended from the Indo-European people. The Indo-European people were sent, we're patching together other things. I talked about it yesterday, the Hopi mythology. According to the Hopis, we were all one tribe, first humans. And the Great Spirit, Odin, came to them and said, I'm going to send you off in 4 different directions. You're going to master the 4 elements. The people who were sent north were sent to master fire, and it's very clear those are the white people. So our spirituality, according to that mythology, is going to be fire-based. This is, by the way, true. I mean, you find this everywhere. Those that were sent to master water became what we now know as the African people. And there is one thing above all others that has been given to the world from Africa, and that is music. Music, like water, gets into everything. There are racist Nazi skinheads running around now listening to whatever music they play, not knowing that the music behind it is stimulated by African music that was brought over to this country by slaves. It's gotten to everywhere. It's like water. It gets everywhere. Those that went east, who became the East Asians, they were to master ether and air. They are the consummate masters of Qigong, breath work, energy work. Another Indo-European people are the Vedics. This is where we get yoga. The word Kundalini comes from them because they do yoga, they do mantra. Their spirituality is based in Kundalini, rising of the Kundalini and opening the chakras. So they are also a fire people as well. So then it makes sense, logically, that the runes, if they are Kundalini fire, as I am suggesting, and they're part of the same fire people indigenous spirituality, then there must be, well, maybe not, but there is very likely to be a strong correlation between chakras and the Kundalini and runes. We're going to figure that out today. We're going to take a look at that, and we are going to figure that out. Before we go any further, there is a myth in Norse mythology called the Gylfaginning. It means the something of the King Gylf. And King Gylf went on a shamanic journey. Now, they don't tell you this, but I'm going to tell you this. He went into a shamanic journey into himself. Because Odin dwells within you, the spirit. It's very clear from the mythology that Odin put his spirit, Odin, Vili, and Ve, the three selves, the three ones. He put his spirit into human beings. That's what makes them human, is his spirit. And so he goes on a shamanic journey into himself, and he comes before a big castle, or I forget what they call it. And inside that castle is Odin, Vili, and Ve. They're seated one on top of the other. Odin, Vili, Ve. And if you look at the translation of the names of all those, they correspond with Odin, Vili, and Ve, the three selves. I know this practice. See, this is why you can't just pull your head out of the ground somewhere after you've spent your whole life in Western, Abrahamic society, which we do have, whether you're religious or not. You have been brought up in a Western Abrahamic religious society. Your mind has been framed to think the way Abrahamic mythology wants you to think, very dualistically. You can't just come from that and open up the myths and know what they mean. Why? Because I'm no different than you. I spent, how many years did I spend? I spent 20 years, at least 25 years, in traditions that had unbroken connections into their indigenous prehistory. Taoism, Vedic Hinduism and Vedic yogic practices, African drumming. These people have not, these practices are the same, and they've been the same for tens of thousands of years. The thinking is very different. You have to understand that thinking. And I had to go through the process of coming from Christianity to Taoist mysticism, and I had to really unpack all of that and learn how to think in a completely different way. Then after doing that and mastering those things, I came back to the Norse myths, and I went, oh yeah, that's that. Here's one of them. This is why without these understandings of other indigenous practices, it's going to be close to impossible to be able to understand the mythology behind it. So the three ones, the practice that I had learned is a meditation for immortality called the method of holding the three ones. In Taoist mysticism, there are the three pure ones, who correspond with the three centers in the body. Norse mythology is the same. Odin, Vili, and Ve. It is the same in Vedic. You have Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu. It was even tried to be forced onto Christianity with God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. That did not come from the Bible. You will never see that taught anywhere in the Bible, that there is a Trinity in the universe. That is something that Christians threw together. Why? Because that was their ancient mythology. They couldn't think differently. So King Gylf goes into the palace and he sees Odin, Vili, and Ve there, which what was happening is that he was looking inside the central chamber in his own brain. If you're able to get into the central chamber of your own brain in a shamanic journey, you will find three beings. This is true with everybody. And it'll manifest in whatever filter you need to see it in. When I first experienced it, I was floating through what looked like this strange temple, and there was all these little places normally where like you put idols in. There was all these little rooms with but there was nothing in it, and that's because I found out later you actually have to bring deities down and put them into the little places in your brain. But in the center of the brain, in the center of the temple of your brain, there is a temple where the three ones come to meet, and they talk, and they work things out, and they do all kinds of things that, you know, we consciously don't understand. And I was floating around in there, and I had no idea where I was. I had just done the method of the three ones meditation. I was floating around in this thing, and all of a sudden I look into the central little closet there in the middle of this temple, and I look in, and there are these three old fat babies talking to each other, and they look at me like, "What the hell are you doing here?" It scared the crap out of me. I'm using the word three old fat babies because they weren't old like wrinkled. They were, the wisdom that they carried was just intense, the power and the wisdom, and they were babies representing immortality, no age. And so King Gilf has the same experience, except he comes from his cultural perspective, and he sees Odin, Vili, and Ve stacked on top of each other. He's looking at the three ones, and then he has that interaction with them. As he's coming up to that, he runs into a juggler who's juggling 7 small swords. Does anybody know what that means? What a coincidence. We happen to have these things called chakras. What it means is that when you're no longer juggling the 7 swords, when they align, you get entrance into the central chamber of your brain. Are you listening? You can't understand these things without having had experience. You can't just sit around and intellectualize it. It takes experience, it takes practice. You come onto my channel and you ask questions. What is the one thing I say? Do the practices, stop thinking. Without direct experience, you won't know what I'm talking about. We live in a society, and a ton of people come onto YouTube, and all they do is just sit in their head and they think and they watch videos and they read books, and they have no practical experience. Knowledge comes from practical experience. You want to understand what all this stuff is? This is what all this stuff is about. You don't want to put the time and effort into doing the practices, you're only going to get this much knowledge. Do you see what I'm talking about here? So, now you have a background. Now you know this is the kind of stuff that goes on in my mind. When I get an inspiration, it's not just because something flew up my butt. It's because these are things I spend all my time thinking about. When I'm lying on the bed doing nothing for hours a day, this is where my mind goes and meditates on. Okay? All right, so now I am now going to experiment. I haven't done this yet. I'm going to do it for the first time with you. Based on everything I just told you, I am operating from the assumption that the runes are Kundalini, which means that there will be a direct connection with the chakras. And by meditating and chanting the runes, you will be opening a specific chakra. I don't know if it's true or not. We're going to find out. Now, we have one little issue we have to stumble over, which is that in your basic understanding of the chakras, there are 7. But in reality, there are more than 7. 7 are the basic ones. We are going to use the 7 chakras, plus there is also a very powerful energy spot, which is right here, the mouth. So let's get the chakras up here so we can look at them. I think I have chakras here somewhere. Here we go. Chakras? No. Chakras? Yeah, there we go. All right, so you see these are one. Oh, you can't you can't see my cursor. So at the top you have the crown, third eye, the throat, the heart, solar plexus, sacral, and root. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's all of the chakras except for the mouth. We have the mouth, we have 8. Why am I adding that? Because, again, I have practice in other traditions, so I know that there are things that overlap, and I know that there are actually something like 11 chakras, not just 8. In Taoist energy work, when you're moving the energy up the meridian points, that there are 8 major meridian points that go up. This is one of them. So there's a reason why, if my theory holds out, there's a reason why all of the runes are 8 and that they're connected to Kundalini. So let's take a look at it. So first let's start with Fehu. So Fehu, if we're starting at the bottom, at the root, then Fehu would be, where did my chakras go? Fehu is going to be the root chakra. That makes perfect sense, because Fehu represents money, it represents resources, and the root chakra is about money and resources. So we're one for one. And then we have Uruj. If we're going clockwise, the next one is Uruj. Uruj represents power. It also represents sexual energy. What? Look at that. We've got Uruj, if we're going up, is going to connect with the sacral chakra. What do you know about that? Next one is Thurisaj. Thurisaj, they say here the solar plexus chakra, but in reality what they mean is the navel. It drives me crazy. The solar plexus is right here beneath the rib cage. The navel is above the sacral. It drives me crazy. People don't know what words mean. Solar plexus is not the navel. Okay? So, now we take Thurisaj and we apply it to the navel. So that would mean that the thunder and the lightning, the power for what? For boundaries of the self. That's what I've determined Thurisaj, among other things, means. This comes from having a strong navel center. If you don't have a strong navel center, you don't have an identity, you don't have power, you don't have sense of self. So far we're 3 for 3. Thurisaj, Ansuj. So Ansuj is going to represent communication with the divine. That would mean the heart center. Do we communicate with the divine through the heart center? I'm not sold on that one yet, but there's a definite possibility there. Going further, Raito. Raito is that which is right, that which is true. That is the following of the path in the sun. It is ritual. R-I-T-E comes from Raito. Raito, ritual. That which is right. R-I-G-H-T. This all comes from Raito. That which is true, that which follows the law. The reason why it's a ritual is because you have to follow certain rules for the ritual to work. So the throat. What is the throat? The throat is the chakra where the teacher speaks the truth. He teaches you how to act. He teaches you ritam. Teaches you the right way to act. So here we have a connection. Raito is connected to the throat. Kenaj. So if we're following the 8 chakra system, next one would be the mouth. Kenaj. Kenaj represents the ability, the permission, and the know-how to do something. Can you drive? Meaning, do you have a license? Do you have permission? Do you have the physical know-how to know how to physically move it? Do you have the knowledge of the rules of the road? Can you drive? So Kenaj would represent here. What happens here? Here we speak into existence our reality. This is where karma comes through. So according to this, we have Kenaj located in the underworld, which is where we work through karma. I'm not sold on that one yet. It feels right, but I can't explain it, so I'm not sold on it yet. I got to make some more room here for myself. Okay, so this is Kenaj. So that means, so let's see, we've gone root, Futhar, Fehu, Uruj, Thurisaj, Ansuj, Raito, Kenaj, Gebo. Gebo represents the exchange of energy, equal exchange of energy. So if we follow that logic, then that would mean that when we learn how to give and receive, it opens up the third eye, wisdom. I don't know. I need time to think about that to see if that makes sense. Wunjo. Wunjo would be up at the top. Wunjo is joy. In my understanding, Wunjo is the joy that comes from camaraderie, specifically. Not just joy, but camaraderie, family, kith and kin. Okay, so that's the first 8. We've got some correlations. Fehu definitely, Uruz, Thurisaj definitely, Ansuz perhaps, Raito perhaps, Kenaj perhaps, Gebo, Wunjo. Not sold on it yet, but it's worth investigating. Let's keep going. First, let me see. Do we have anybody watching? We do have people watching. All right. There's no questions, so I don't have to make the speech about don't babble on there unless you got a question. All right. So let's go with the next one. Excuse me. Hagal. Hagal is healing. The descending power of healing. Would that correspond with the root chakra? Maybe. Nauthiz. Nauthiz would go to the sacral chakra. So that would mean, we know one thing about the sacral chakra. The sacral chakra, besides being a sexuality, the sacral chakra is also a chakra of creativity. It's also a chakra of individuality. And I'm right now thinking about the invention of fire, because the Nauthiz rune represents, if you've seen how those, I can't do it with my fingers, but how those things are put together that you use to, you're not literally rubbing 2 sticks together, you're rubbing 2 sticks together like this with string and twine. And that, in order for somebody to come to that invention, they had to be extremely creative. And so this could correspond with the sacral chakra, because it takes, the reason why the kids like to go to the discotheques and dance, because it's the sacral chakra. It's literally, they're opening their sacral chakra to gain individuality and open up creativity. That's why music is creativity. But at the same time, it's the lower creativity, which is why it's always, it's very simple. Because it's not complete, it's not Vivaldi's 4 Seasons, which would appear something. All right, so Nauthiz would be the sacral chakra. Isa, this definitely corresponds with the navel center, because the navel center is about identity. Clear and simple. Your identity, your power. So that's clear. Isa is the self. It means it's I, the individual. Yera. Now we're back to the heart center. That definitely corresponds, because Yera is cooperation, relationship, working together. That is definitely a heart-centered thing. Then we have Yuhuaj, once again at the throat. The throat is where we leave the communal energy of everybody working together, and we go into becoming the mage, the wizard. I operate from here. When I'm no longer working on my throat chakra, I will stop teaching. Because the throat chakra is where you walk away from religion and you are separating yourself from the crowd, and it's you and the infinite. And while you're working through that, you teach, you speak. A true teacher, when they're speaking, like what I'm doing right now, when they speak and they teach, they're actually allowing their own evolution to take place. When I sometimes go back and I listen to myself, I go, I said that? I didn't know I knew that. Wow, that's deep. It's because it's not just coming from me, it's coming through me. This is here. So that would be Yuhuaj. Then we have Perthro. The mouth speaks your karma. You literally create your karma through your speech. Perthro is the latka. It is karma. This is where, it's one thing, this is why it's good not to say, not to, like if you're talking to somebody and you're upset, it's always good to say, you know what, I'm going to stop here because I don't want to say something I'm going to regret. Because when you hurl a curse at somebody, you've now brought that into reality. You're karmically responsible for that. I'm thinking about somebody that was in my life recently who I know did not mean to say what they said. They ended up doubling down on it because I confronted them on it. And, when people are, wanting to hold their own in the argument, and she doubled down on that, and the harm that it caused me is something that can never be taken away. Even if that person becomes aware, and even if they were to reach out to me and apologize, I'm really sorry I said that. Even if I chose to forgive them, it wouldn't take away the harm. There's some things you can't take back. It's right here. So here we're definitely doing well here. And then we have El Hajj. El Hajj is the shaman with his arms or her arms raised up to the sky, channeling the power of the gods for the power of the village. I would say that corresponds. And then you have Sawal. Sawal is the energy of the soul. So that would mean that opening up this chakra would connect us to the infinite soul of the universe. So far, those are some loose connections. That seems to work. Let's keep going. Tiwaj. Bear in mind, as I'm doing this, I'm realizing that I'm going through each one of the three Odin-Vili Vase. So the first 8 are Vili, the lower, the physical. The second 8 are the spiritual, corresponding to this part of our awareness. And the third is corresponding to this one. So it's not that they all are about here. If we're following the chakras, it means that if I'm right, this would mean that each one of these layers of runes would represent a 3-level of opening of the chakras, where the first level would be becoming mature on a physical level. The second opening would be becoming mature on a psychological level. I'm logging this, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look and see if that applies. And then the third would be opening of the chakras on a purely spiritual level. So that would mean that each one of the chakras has a 3-tiered opening possibility. It's very exciting and interesting to me. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. Can I apply it? I don't know yet. So let's go through the third one. Tiwaj. Tiwaj, let me see, am I still broadcasting here? Yeah. So Tiwaj represents the highest awareness. It literally represents the North Star, at the apex of the roof of the sky. This is Tiwaj Tiu was originally the Sky King, the Sky Father. In fact, his name, Tiu, means heaven. And in the other Indo-European traditions, that same root, Tiu, is Diu Piter, which means Sky Father. You know, it's isn't you see the connection? I mean, we try to be like Native Americans and we go Sky Father and Earth Mother. We don't have to take their religion. It's already written in ours. It's in the words. Jupiter means Sky Father. Can't get any more clear than that. Same thing in the Vedic. Deus Pita. Deus, sky, Pita, Father. Sky Father. You can't get any more shamanic than that. This is why I teach this. This is why Native Americans, you know, I'm here in Australia, and it's really big in the New Age community to have like Native American cards and Native American this. And I was talking with some people and they asked what you do, and I said, I'm a shaman. And somebody said, oh, you can't be a shaman. I said, why not? He says, because you're not Native American. And I said, if you call a Native American shaman, you're going to get your ass kicked. They hate that word. They hate you walking around with your dream catchers, and they don't like that. You haven't earned that from them. And they'll say, you know, why don't you find it in your own religion? Why do you have to take ours? They're right. It's right there. You want to worship Sky Father and Earth Mother? It's in our words. You already have it there, waiting for you. All right, so now the other thing that I learned in Kundalini Yoga, which again a lot of people don't know, because a lot of people talk about Kundalini and chakras and opening the chakras and the rising of Kundalini. One of the things they don't know is that opening up the chakras and having the Kundalini rise to the top is only the first half. The second half is that once that has gone and connected, it has to then go back down. It has to go all the way back down and connect to the root. And when you have it opened in two directions, then you can say that your Kundalini has been awakened. So in this case, I'm talking about this because I'm seeing if this fits. Tiwaj would represent the highest chakra, the highest awareness, but if we're following the same path and we're talking about the root chakra. So that could represent Kundalini having come back down and opening the root chakra. I don't know. We'll see if it works. Berchtana. Berkano, as some people call it. Berchtana. So, the birch, beginnings. So that would mean the root chakra. Birth, sexuality, root chakra. Superficial connection. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I'm not sold on it yet. Ehwaj. Ehwaj would be the navel center. I would go along with that because true intuition only comes when you have worked through all of the psychological issues regarding the self so that you are mature enough to allow the intuition of the gods to come through you. You know, I've had multiple experiences with people who claim to be psychic. Some of them are very intuitive. Thinking of somebody in particular that I just recently had interaction with. But if it's immature, you can't trust it. You can have intuition, but if your lower self isn't cleaned up and aligned, then you can't tell the difference between intuition that's coming from the gods or from your own unconscious fears or desires. And I've definitely watched this person I'm thinking of make a lot of purely intuitive decisions based on their own narcissism as opposed to really being able to hear the gods. So this would line up because this is the third phase of opening the chakras, which means the navel center is open and prepared for intuitive understanding. Okay, so that lines up pretty good with me. I like that. Okay, so then we go to Manaj. So Manaj would be the heart. Interesting. So here at the heart, we have Manaj, which is mankind, human beings, specifically the ability to meditate, the meditative mind. And this is definitely a part of much meditative practices where you are able to allow the heart center to become objective, like the moon. So you're really connecting the mind and the heart. And that's what makes us human. Okay, so there's some good potential connections there. Not sold on it yet. I need to think about it more. I'm also debating whether or not I want to go with a different meridian system, because there's another 8 meridian system that you can use, which ends up stopping up here. We'll see. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. La Gouge. So now we've gotten up to the throat. La Gouge is depth. The depth of emotions. It's not just water. It's the deep, deep, deep waters of deep emotions, deep emotional connection. So that would mean that the throat is communicating. And one of the things that the guru does, the teacher does, the wizard does, is they put into words that which cannot be put into words. When you listen to somebody and they have real depth of knowledge, real wisdom, it's like, wow, I could never have, I can't even repeat that. What was that you just said? My fiance used to do that. She would say, hang on. Every one of your words means something. Please go back. I have to write that down. One word at a time. Whether she was right or not, that's who I was. That was her experience. But that's who a teacher is. They put into words the depth of wisdom that cannot be put into words. So La Gouge here, that works for me. Ingvaj. Ingvaj coming up here. So here we have Ingvaj, which is the rune of the spiritual fire. The spiritual fire, that's what Ing means. If you don't know that, watch the last video I put up. Ing is an Indo-European word that means literally the spiritual fire of the sacrifice. There are 2 words in Indo-European languages. There used to be 2 in English. We only have 1 now, fire. Fire literally means fire. And Ing represented the spiritual fire. We have that in Greek and Latin, ignis, ignition. We have it in Vedic, Agni. These are the fire, spiritual fire. It's literally the fire of Kundalini. So why would we put that here? Because this is also a place of fire. The tongue. The tongue is a fire that can set ablaze the world. What you say can destroy or heal or create. And in times past, you didn't speak unless you were committed to having your speech put into physical reality. So does that work for me? I can use that. I'm not completely sold on it yet, but it works for me. And then we have Dagaj. So Dagaj would be the third eye. Dagaj is the full light of the noonday sun. Dagaj represents for me being completely, totally absorbed in the moment, in the soul, living in the soul. So it could represent the third eye, operating completely from the third eye, having the third eye completely open, so that you are functioning from the power of in the moment, being completely in the moment in the power of the spirit. So that can work for me. And then Othal. Othal would normally be placed at the root, because Othal means literally land, means ancestral land, but it also means spiritual inheritance, the culmination of everything. So now the way that my thought process is, I'm starting to think about, do these runes all go up, or do they go up and then down and then back up? I don't know. So that would be another thing. I'm just telling you things to do to investigate the theories. If you're just coming in, tuning in now, you're probably not going to know what I'm talking about. You have to go back and watch this from the beginning, because I'm teaching you how to think, how to experiment, and how to take theories and put them into practical practice to see if it works. So I've been doing that. To be honest, I got a little bit of a headache. I'm not quite sure if my theory works. I like it a lot. I have an emotional agenda. I'd like for it to work. It'd be a really cool thing if it did. So far I've seen some correlations that work pretty cool, but I'm not convinced yet. I'm not entirely convinced. So in order to do that, I would then have to go and look at different configurations of, in which direction is the energy going for the Kundalini. Before I stop this, I have to tell you what Kundalini is and what the chakras are, because this will help you understand why I'm looking at this and why I think this might be a really powerful understanding. If the runes can be corresponded with different chakras, and I'm only going to do that if it follows a pattern. If it's, I have to pick this one and put it here and pick that one and put it here, then it's not following a pattern and I'm not interested. Then it's just arbitrary and I don't want to do that. For it to mean something to me, it has to follow a logical, scientific pattern. Otherwise, anybody can say anything, call it anything they want. But what Kundalini is not life force energy. There are people out there, and you can go on right now, what is Kundalini, and you can get no shortage of videos, including Teal Swan, who will sit there and say, as though they know the truth, that Kundalini is life force energy. It's not life force energy. Kundalini is a Vedic word, and the Vedics have a word for life force energy. It's called prana. Same with the Chinese. The Chinese use qi. It means the same thing. It means breath, energy, life force, breath, energy. You can't have life force energy and breath are connected. Spirit. The word spirit. Well, there's another word called respiration. You re-spirit yourself. When you die, you expire. You breathe out. Expire. Spirit leaving. So this is what life force energy is. It's not Kundalini. Kundalini is something else. Kundalini is only in the spinal column and it is connected to opening the chakras. The chakras are not things that you can open like you can fill the navel center with qi or open up the three dantians with qi. That's different. The chakras are opened through life experience that brings maturity. Because Kundalini is the human identity. You ever notice that when people have Kundalini illness, they go insane? That's because insanity means lack of maturity. In order to be sane, you have to have maturity. Maturity comes through experience. This is why meditation opens the chakras, because meditation brings you to a higher awareness of your emotions, your thoughts, and your feelings. It brings maturity. So when Kundalini rises and opens the root chakra, if I'm right about this, there are 3 levels of maturity. And when you've reached all 3 of those levels of maturity, then your root chakra is now open. Same with all the rest of them. The sacral chakra has to do with identity. It's where you first separate from your parents. That's why when kids go through puberty, they rebel. It's because they're getting ready to leave. So they're breaking away from the parental rule. Their root chakra is opening up because they're going through puberty. It brings individuality, it brings creativity, because you create children through it, but you create music and art and other things through the sacral chakra. The 3rd chakra is your identity. And when your 3rd chakra opens, you learn how to be your own self, to be fully empowered within yourself and not abuse others. People who, this is why, people who are like, CEOs who are very powerful, but they dominate and control and abuse others. They use them as stepping stones. They use people as objects. that shows that the third chakra is empowered, but it hasn't been fully opened into maturity. When you learn to be powerful within yourself, but you don't need to impose it on others, your third chakra has opened. Kundalini has risen through it. Fourth chakra of the heart is connection with others. People whose heart chakra are not fully open, but they are working towards it, they get very involved in religion. This is why religions knock on your door and say, hey, you need to become a follower of Jesus. If you don't follow Jesus, you won't go to heaven. And then they need the group. The group comes together. And they reinforce their own spirituality through the group. So on the one hand, it's good because it can create lots of love and connection. But it can also create a dependence and an immaturity, and then you need to be forcing your religion onto other people. This is codependent people, people who love too much. Yeah, they're coming from their heart, but they're not allowing other people to be themselves. They want to take people hostage with their love. He won't love me back, and I'm always picking the wrong man. The guys do it too. I've done it. I just did it recently. But this means that the heart center is not fully mature yet, because a fully mature heart center says, I love you unconditionally. I don't need you to be or do anything. I love you exactly the way you are. You can worship whomever you want. You're still my brother and sister, or whatever. Maturity in the throat chakra, being able to speak your truth without having to demean others in the process. I have a lot of work to do, apparently. Opening up the third eye, being able to see into the other side, connect to the other side, and not get an ego about it. The crown chakra, completely losing yourself in the infinite, but still having the ability to come back and be a person. What they say is that when you've reached your seventh chakra and you've opened up the crown chakra and you connect with infinity, then you're still a child. So people people who are, supposed saints who are sitting in meditation and they've been in meditation for years and people come, they're not done. When they can bring that energy back down and come back and be a person and take that connection with infinity and bring that into all of their interactions with other people, then they can say they're fully awakened. This shows you how superficial and childish people are. We find people out, and they have whole people come out and follow the guys who are just sitting in meditation 24 hours a day. Well, good for them. They haven't finished. When they come back and they walk around and they can live their life and eat food and talk to people and do all the things that normal human people do and talk and communicate, then they can say they've achieved enlightenment. But if they're still having to close their eyes and connect, they're not there yet. So in other words, Kundalini has to rise, and the opening of the chakras has to do with maturity. It doesn't mean anything else. If you've opened up all your chakras, it just means you're a fully formed human. It's the best you get. The best you get is to be human. It's the highest level of awareness you get to be while you're in this human body. All right, so I'm done with all of my talk for that. Again, this has been an interesting experiment. We'll see where it goes. I don't see any questions except for one, so we'll take that. And how many people do we have on here? We've got 32 people on here. Not a whole lot of questions. Either I must be really interesting or I'm boring the crap out of you. All right, so let's see. Average Joe question. What did you do to enter into the center of the head? I didn't call it a nirvana center, but I told you. I told you that I did a practice called the method of holding the three ones. It's a Taoist, high-level, internal meditative practice. I'm not going to give it to you. I've already given the first one. Nobody bought it. I think it's if you go to courses.thunderwizard.com, you can still find the immortality practice, but nobody gave a crap about it, so I didn't create the other two levels. So you can go do level 1 right now. It's right up there. Go enjoy it. Courses.thunderwizard.com. Look for immortality. What can I do to meet the 3 ones? I just told you. But average Joe, I think that would be a good practice for you. I think that would be a good practice for you. So start by doing the level 1. If you can do that, that's fine. If you just stay at level 1 for the rest of your life, you will achieve all kinds of things. But go give that a try. All right, I don't see any other questions. So if I don't have questions, then you leave me 2 choices to keep talking. I don't want to keep talking right now. The other is to sell you stuff. So I am going to put on a short little video about the Celestial Qigong, which is the most powerful energy practice I know of that can be taught over video. So I'm going to put that up here for you right now. Hi, I'm Michael Denny of SpiritTao.com, and this is Celestial Negung Part 1. Celestial Negung means that this is power that is descending from heaven. And the idea is that we are all microcosms of the entire universe. You are the entire universe, and everything around you is simply the projection. You are looking within yourself. So when you look up into the stars at night, you're actually looking deep within your own body. When you look at the sun, the moon, the trees, the flowers, you're looking within yourself. This is Negung. And so what we're doing is we're simply releasing that infinity from within us. You are tapping into and releasing the power that is within our own body, our own cells, our own organs. So one of the reasons that I'm making this DVD is in the hope that the essence and the spirit of the teaching of the Chanting arts can be taught to the world at large, and it is my hope that the core essence of what the Chanting tradition is will continue to live and grow and evolve. As we move on into the Aquarian age, everything is changing. I don't need to tell you that. The entire world is changing, and what we are seeing now is that if people hold on to external things, they are very challenged in life. And those who are making the transition into the next phase that we are moving into in the world as we approach 2012, those who look within and find their source of strength from within, those are the people who are getting the most out of life and will make the transition into the next phase of evolution most comfortably. It is my belief that the Chanting tradition is one method whereby human beings can evolve into the next level of being in the most comfortable fashion and be able to take advantage of the rapid, energetic, mental, and spiritual changes that are going on in the world today. All right, so I see some questions here. So bear in mind, if you're new to the channel, it means that you don't know a lot of what I teach, which means that I may get on your case for that. If you ask me questions that aren't things that I teach, I may point that out to you. I also, what I do is I listen not just to the question, but what the real question is underneath the question. And if I feel that there's something going on an unconscious level, I'm going to bring that to your attention. Please, if you're new, write the word question. I'm not interested in your anything else. You guys seem to be doing that just fine. So if you write the word question, I'll know you're asking a question, and then I can answer it. Okay, right now I'm looking for my links. There they are. Yeah, all right, now I'm ready to go. All right, so let's take a look. I see some people ask some questions. Moses Collins' question, why do people relate consciousness to the star Sirius? So have you ever heard me relate consciousness to the star Sirius? This is what I just got through saying. If you follow and have studied what I teach, then you can ask me about what I teach. I'll be enthused to answer it. Since I don't teach that, why would I answer it? I don't know anything about it. No idea. Short answer is I have no idea why they do that. I can't pronounce this individual's name. He's tried to teach me, but I can't do it. Looks like Charagaich, but I know it's some weird Celtic thing. Question. When doing the mudras and chants for the elements, should I do close down? Yes. Short answer, yep. Always do close down when you do energy work. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, if you go on my channel, you can look for a close down. Let me say this again to everybody, especially if you're new. Depending on what device you have, figure out how you can search within somebody's YouTube channel. Not just go up to the top of YouTube and type things in, because you'll just get all of YouTube. If you really want to learn from my channel, be able to go and learn how to type in. If you do it or search within my channel. To do that on a desktop, for instance, you go to the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel itself. Right next to the name thunderwizard.com, you're going to see a little magnifying glass. Click on that. A search bar will come up. You can put any search term you want, and you'll find all of the videos that will be associated with that. Okay, so if you want to look for close down, you can. If you want to do energy work, you can. I've said energy work is really important. All right, Leanne Visser. Actually, before I go further, I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm realizing, I may be screwing around with a model I've already come up with, which is each one of the runes actually functions in the meridian, not the chakra system, but the meridian system in a sine wave. So it's actually the top, the bottom, and it bounces back and forth like this until it gets to the heart. I've already done that with the runes, and it makes me wonder why I'm trying to do it straight up and straight down. Anyway, it was an interesting experiment. I'm still not done with it yet, but we'll see. And for that, in case you want to learn that practice, which does work, go to courses.thunderwizard.com and look for the Spell of the 9 Knots. That's where I teach that particular method of opening the chakras via the meridian points in a sine wave. And you can use the runes that way as well. I teach that in Advanced Rune Shamanism books, courses.thunderwizard.com. So in case anybody's following my stuff is getting confused, I've just confused myself. And here, this is why I do this, so that I can think it through and go, I've run into enough serious problems with it that I'm not ready to make a statement that the runes correspond with the chakras. I'm not ready to do that yet. I have to rethink it in a sine wave pattern, which of course changes everything, makes it less convenient, makes it less fun. It doesn't fit in with being able to switch directly across from shamanic to Vedic. Anyway, I'm sharing with you how I do things. This is some of the experiments that I do to learn and to, because if you're going to be a shaman, one of the things you have to do is you have to be able to put things into practice. Again, people talk about research. Research is not watching a bunch of videos. Research is actually doing scientific testing. See if things work or they don't work. Try it out. If it works, now you have evidence to come to the conclusion that this may be a scientific fact. Okay? Same thing with spiritual practices. It's not just a bunch of talk. If it doesn't have a practical, real life, practical application that you can see and feel the effects, then it's all talk. Leanne Visser question. I chant the first 8 runes as part of my ritual. I still have rest to learn. Well, you don't have to memorize them. I mean, listen, you can work with the first 8 for as long as you want. You don't have to do more than the first 8 if you don't want. But there's no reason why you can't just simply have them out in front of you and just chant them all. You don't have to memorize them. But In other words, it says you still have the rest to learn. You can learn them by chanting them. But I also believe in taking your time. The first 8 are the safest because they deal with physical reality. And once you start getting up into the second and third, you're dealing with psychological, which is real crazy. That's why Yuhuaj, the rune of psychological awakening, which is also shamanic awakening, which is also conflict, intensity, that is right smack dab in the middle of the runes in the second 8, which is the psychological realm. Once I learned the rest, do you recommend alternating the 3 sets of 8? I don't know what you mean by alternating. I don't have a recommendation. You can have your own relationship with the runes. There are some people that can chant all the runes once a day, every day. I can't. And the reason is because when I even talk about a rune, that rune explodes into my reality. And one of the most traumatic experiences was when I did, and you can go on to thunderwizard.com, you can see me go through it, as I talk through each one of the runes. And each time I would talk about one of the runes, that rune would take me through all of the power and the challenges and the teachings of that rune. So I don't chant runes unless I'm dead serious about bringing that energy into my reality. It could just be because of who I am. It could be because I'm a shaman. It could be because I have power. It could be because I'm immature and I can't handle it. I don't really care. I don't recommend one way or another. I think you should follow your instincts, and as long as you feel that you're gaining from it, the runes are very, very powerful, but they're also very intuitive, and they're also very flexible in that they are your psychological, they're the essence of your psychological being. So I don't have a hard and fast rule on how you should do it. If you feel like your life is starting to spin out of control because too much is happening, then back off and do what you're comfortable with. As I said, in my experience, the first 8 are the safest. Carmen, question: why do so many Kundalini teachers offer all these different Kundalini exercises and say it'll open things like my heart center? It helped. I felt a whole lot, but I stopped and all stuff came back. So, first off, Carmen, if you're new to the channel, I don't talk about other teachers. It's not fair to them. I don't know them. I'm not their student. Whatever opinions I have about them, if I have less than a positive experience, I could be bad-mouthing somebody from ignorance. So you're kind of setting me up. You want me to bad-mouth them, even the way you put the question. Why do so many teachers offer all these different things and it'll do this and that? You're trying to goad me into talking bad about them, and I'm not going to do that. I don't know why they do that. I was a Kundalini yoga teacher. I mean, I can teach those exercises. Many of them you're probably talking about. And, why they say it opens this and opens that. Again, I don't know what specific thing you're talking about. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. That's what they've been taught. I do know that even though I say that opening up the chakras has nothing to do with meditating on each chakra and opening it, it doesn't mean that you're not going to have an experience of it, which is all that you're saying here. You're alluding that you worked on your heart center and that it helped. You felt a whole lot, but you stopped and all the stuff came back. So that is clear that it is stimulating the issues surrounding that. And when you stopped doing it, it stopped stimulating that, and all the stuff came back. I don't know what the stuff means. You're not going to stop being human. So nothing you've said tells me that anything you've learned from these teachers is inaccurate or wrong or bad. It just means you stopped. Just like going to the gym. It's like saying, why do all these people say to go to the gym and lift weights? It'll give you big biceps. But I did it for a while and then I stopped and then my muscles got small. Well, you stopped doing it. Do you need to, be a physicist to figure that out? So it tells me that you have a false assumption about what it is to open something. You think you're going to open it and then you'll just be at this perfect level and everything will be okay. It also tells me that you do it to try and avoid painful things that are inside of you, because you say all the stuff came back. Well, of course it came back. It never went anywhere. You were just, it's, again, you go to the gym, lift weights, you feel healthy. It doesn't mean it's going to take away, all of the crap in your system from smoking and drinking the night before. So if it worked, why did you stop? Just keep doing it. And again, don't ask me about other people and other teachers. It's not fair to them. It's disrespectful to me, because it means you're not following what I teach. You're telling me about other people. Having said that, I do understand and appreciate your question, and I do welcome all questions. That's my answer to that. Samantha Turner Figueroa, please ask the word question. Am I in Australia? Yes, I am. Why are you in Australia? Here's my number. Give me a call. You look hot. I'm kidding. I don't do it. That's the worst thing you could possibly do. I know, because I've tried it a couple times. All right. Moses Collins, question. Why do people... Oh, I already answered that. Didn't you ask that before? You did. Moses Collins, why are you asking that question twice? I already answered that question for you. Did you not hear me the first time? Easy does it 1T. Yeah. Question. What is a close down? All right. I just said, if you want to know what a close down is, you can go watch the video. The short answer is, if you're new to the channel, close down is what you do when you do energy work. Whenever you do any kind of energy work, which I teach, which is called Qigong. I just did a whole video on the celestial Qigong. Energy work, you need to close down, meaning you need to take everything and bring it back down to the root chakra, back to the navel chakra. So that's what a close down is. If you really want to understand what that means, first go find out what energy work is, which is on my channel. Anything Qigong, Qigong, go learn what that is, and then you'll have a reason to know what closing down is. Okay? Easy does it one. Yeah. Whoops. Nope. I mean, what? I know what? What are you guys talking about there? Samantha Turner Figueroa, question: are runes consciousness? That is a good way to put it. I would say yes to that question. High vibrations, runes versus crystals. Is that a question? So do me a favor. If you want to, in my estimation, if you want to do well on my channel, I would recommend putting time and effort into things. So if you're going to ask a question, ask a question. Runes versus crystals, what? I mean, write out a full question. Subject, an object, a verb, be specific. What is it that you want me to tell you about runes versus crystals? Okay? Put some time and some effort into it. And also write the word question, otherwise I might miss that, because I scroll past anything that's not a question. Ash B, question: are there specific Qigong movement for each rune? Well, that is a good question. There are what's called rune, I forget what they call it. There's a whole practice where you stand, and I've done it. I've played around with it, where you stand and try and mimic the runes with your body. This would be Fehu, right? There's a whole practice to that. I don't teach it. I wasn't impressed enough with it to say that it was super powerful, but I didn't do it enough, to be honest, but I also did feel something when I did it. So if you want to look for it, you'll find it. Go look for it. Or you can play around with yourself. Just stand and try to mimic with your body the runes. And you have to stay in that position for a while and breathe. Learn how to breathe and feel. You'll, even if any posture will do something. Whether or not it's healthy or not, it's a whole other question. But the short answer is yes, I don't teach it. High vibration question: during meditation, I frequently find myself face to face with a serpent. It's scary. Any insight? I don't like these really general questions. If you have a specific question, I can answer it. The insight that I'll give you is that, I mean, there could be so many things. You know, look into what nagas are, Naga. Maybe you're experiencing a naga. It could mean your Kundalini is being stimulated, the sort of serpent of Kundalini. It could mean that there is some esoteric knowledge that is coming for you. It could mean that you are secretly or spiritually or in past lives were in a serpent clan of magicians. There's all kinds of reasons it could be. So, I mean, you ask that question like it's not that big of a deal. Any insight? I don't get the sense that you really are interested in wanting to know. But one of my most powerful shamanic journeys, which you can find in my first book, The Thunder Wizard Path, which is courses.thunderwizard.com. You can find all my books there. In that book, I talk about the shamanic journey that got me on the path of integrating the path of my ancestors into the other indigenous paths I've worked with. And what happened is that this enormous serpent came out of the earth and swallowed me. I woke up. And I went and looked at it, and the serpent represents hidden knowledge, secret knowledge, all the things associated with the wisdom of the serpent. So my insight is that something like that must be happening with you. You probably know more than I do about it because it's your experience. Moses Collins, ask questions about things I teach. I don't teach sun gazing, so I can't comment on it. You're asking me to potentially badmouth some other practice or tradition. Didn't you just hear me? You're also telling me that you're not putting any effort into learning what I teach, and you're not asking me about what I teach, which means you're not all that interested in me. It's disrespectful. You don't mean to be, but it is. It's disrespectful and immature to talk to a teacher that way. Ask me about what I teach. I'll be happy to answer it. Samantha Turner Figueroa, no, I'm not. Okay, well, that was fun. Average Joe, question: is it good that sometimes when focusing energy on the navel that it shoots up the spine? Why are you asking me if it's good? You're trying to set me up for the answer. Are you saying that sometimes when focusing energy on the navel that energy shoots up your spine? And that you want me to comment on that? What do you think? Do you think it's good? It's a pretty intense experience. Not everybody can have that experience. Something is going on. You tell me, are things getting better or things getting worse? If you're focusing on the navel and you're doing things properly, whatever experience you're having is probably an experience that is the body adjusting itself on some level. Why would that be bad? Joel Ellis, question: I have been learning and practicing Kundalini Yoga. Is Qigong similar in any way? What does it do for the body? Well, Kundalini Yoga and Qigong are two different things. I used to teach Kundalini Yoga. And I found that Kundalini Yoga does not go well with some very high level Taoist energy work, which can be certain types of Qigong. So they're not similar. They're not similar in the way that you're asking. There are ways that you can practice the two together. Basic Qigong, which just deals with the navel center, you can do with Kundalini Yoga. See, the thing is that Qi and Kundalini, even though they're two separate energies, they stimulate each other. So this is why if you do Kundalini Yoga and you do breath of fire, that's pranayama. That's technically Qigong, because breath work, Qigong literally means breath work. It doesn't always mean that you're breathing heavily all the time, but anyway. So that's a type of Qigong, and that will stimulate the Kundalini. And it usually goes in that order. Qigong will stimulate Kundalini, not the other way around. You can do all kinds of Kundalini and not have stimulated your Qi very much at all. Go do me a favor. Go onto my channel. Like I said, learn how to search within my channel and type in Kundalini. I've got Kundalini versus Qi, and I go into great detail what the differences are and what Kundalini is. I talked about it a little bit, but Kundalini is the psychological, spiritual energy of the body of the human personality inside the spinal column. And Qigong is just simply life force energy. In other words, animals can benefit from Qigong, but you try and teach them Kundalini yoga, nothing will happen because they're not human. Only humans have Kundalini. Dogs and cats don't have Kundalini. But they have Qi, and you can do all kinds of things and put Qi into them, and they'll love that. So maybe that answers your question. Are runes basically sigils? Well, sigil just means sign, and so runes are a type of sigil. Yes. Easy does it yet. Question: do runes only have magical or subconscious properties? So first thing I want to correct you on is that I don't think you're using subconscious correctly. The vast majority of the world uses the word subconscious incorrectly, and that's because they don't know that you have three consciousnesses. You have the conscious mind, the subconscious, and the unconscious. You mean the unconscious. Do the runes only have unconscious properties? No, they don't. Do they only have magical or subconscious? I don't know why you're throwing those two together. So far, no. After acquiring the knowledge of their history, what is this question? Do the runes only have magical or subconscious properties after acquiring the knowledge of their history? You mean, are you asking me, will the runes work if you don't have the intellectual understanding of their history? Yes, of course they will. You don't have to learn the history of them, although I recommend it. No, if you start chanting the runes, things will happen. It doesn't require your intellectual assent. It's not like Christianity. In order to be saved, you have to intellectually assent that Jesus died, rose from the dead, and saved you from your sins. If you don't have that, you're not saved. It's all in the head. Runes have nothing to do with that. Chant them and see what happens. You'll find out for yourself. In reference, because they are taught to write. So you have to write runes where you live? Lucky you. Writing them and chanting them aren't necessarily the same thing. Chanting them, writing them with intent is something else. If you're just learning them like an alphabet, they'll back off and just let you use them as an alphabet. They won't kick in just because you're using them as an alphabet and writing them. Joelle Ellis, okay, that's not a question. High Vibration gave $5. Thank you. I appreciate that. High Vibration question. I've been raising my Kundalini and learning from Horus and the Baphomet and a serpent. The serpent manifests physically, like as a real another person. Can it hurt me? So first off, how do I know you're raising your Kundalini? I don't know that. You're telling me you are, but that's your assumption. Maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. I don't know. You say you've been learning from Horus, Baphomet, and a serpent. All right. I can't say that you haven't, but just because you've had an experience where you've communicated with these beings, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I don't know if it's your own projection or if it's real. I have no idea. You say the serpent manifests physically. You mean like if you and I were sitting next to each other, that I would see a serpent physically manifest so much that I could touch it? Is that what you're saying? And you're asking me, can it hurt you? How do I know? I'm not the one. I don't have the ability to manifest a serpent physically in front of me, to my knowledge. How am I supposed to know if it can hurt you or not? You know more about it than I do. I would imagine if it's a physical serpent, I imagine it could cause you harm just like any other physical being. Does it want to harm you? I don't know. What are you asking me for? Look, it sounds like a really wonderful experience. Again, I'm not trying to badmouth it. What I'm trying to point out is that just because you've had an experience doesn't necessarily mean that it's anything other than your own unconscious projection. The thing about your unconscious is that your unconscious is the necessary vehicle through which we connect with the gods and the spirits. But it's also the repository of all of our dreams, all of our fears, all of our narcissistic lunacy. And this is why spirituality works. This is why closing down. Somebody said, what is closing down? This is why you close down after Qigong. Because you're bringing all of that energy back into the navel so that the navel can reset itself. The more you do that, the more clear and clean the navel gets, and then your unconscious mind and all your stuff gets worked out. When somebody completely cleans out their unconscious, which is, I don't know if that's humanly possible, but if they could, then they would truly be the only psychic person in the world, because they would have nothing to get in the way between their intuitive stimulation and their experience, because they would have no agenda. But I don't know what your agenda is. I have no idea. Look, I do rune readings for myself all the time. And I know that doing rune readings for yourself is very sketchy at best. And whenever I do rune readings for myself, if I've got a strong agenda about, ooh, is that woman in love with me? I never get the right answer. If I'm doing a reading for somebody else, and they paid me for it, which means I don't have an agenda, it's crazy accurate. But that's because I don't care about the outcome. If you're having these experiences, do you get an emotional payoff? Does it bother you if I were to say, oh, that's all your imagination, that's not really happening? Would you want to defend that? Would you want to say, no, how could you say that? Why are you, you're the wrong teacher because you don't support if you have that kind of an intense reaction, that means that you have an emotional agenda, which means right there, there's a chance that it's not real, that it's just your fantasies that you're experiencing. Nothing wrong with that. A way to prove that you are learning from Horus is if Horus tells you something, or let's say makes a prediction about the future, test it out. If it comes true, then that's evidence. It's not proof. That's evidence that you might actually be working with Horus. If it's half and half, then it's just you. So I'm not going to completely buy into your assumptions there. I can't prove you wrong, and I don't care if it really is or not. But that's the main thing I want to take from your question. Have those experiences, do them, really be 100% in them, and then when you're in waking consciousness, test it in the real world to see if it holds up. If you start seeing and learning things you didn't know before and you couldn't have known, that's a good sign. It's not proof, but it's a good sign. Okay? So that's my thought about your question. Question, is there a way to practice energy work if I'm in public around other people? Yeah. Yes. You want me to tell you what it is? Do some exercises. Do some exercises and find out. If you don't feel comfortable doing it out in public, around other people, I don't know what you mean, like sitting in class at school or hanging out with your friends, or, if you're with people, be with people. I see people doing Qigong and Tai Chi on the beach all the time. That's public. Do you need to set some more time so you can do it, or you just? Yes, of course there is. The Hool breath is one. You can do the Hool breath anytime. Nobody has to see what you're doing. In case you're new to the channel, go and type this in. Hool. Let me put it in all caps here. Hool breath. If you haven't done any energy work and you don't know what I'm talking about, go do that. It's something that I teach. You can just type it into any search engine and it should come up, but especially on YouTube. Moses Collins, I already answered this question. Did you ask this before I answered it? Humans are the only animals on the planet with Kundalini. Carmen, pizza. Question, is your martial arts course Qigong good for children? I don't have a martial arts course. Are you talking about celestial Qigong? Yeah, there's one of my followers, Maclovia Perez. She and her young son do it together. And I even have it on one of my videos, a testimonial of him talking about how much he likes doing that. So yeah, it's great for kids. Courses.thunderwizard.com. Look for Celestial Qigong. Dean Nevins, question, is magic most connected to the fire element? No, magic can be connected to any of the elements. Is Freya connected to the fire element? My first answer is no. I'm just telling you what's coming through me right now. I'm not guaranteeing it. My thought about that is that Freya is a Venus goddess, and Venus is water. Really sexual fluids, if we're being honest. That doesn't mean that there isn't fire involved, because fire is going to be in everything. All of the gods are going to have fire in them. So that's just my first thought. Meditate on it. Those are just my first thoughts. High Vibration gave me $5 and then wants to know. He has 250,000 subscribers. Would you allow me to interview on my channel? Well, that sounds like a good deal for me, so I'm going to say yes to that. You can email me here. Let me make sure that that's an actual let me just make sure that that's an actual email address. I might be wrong about that. I may have to just give you another one here. But let me check, see if this works. Boink. All right, so I'm going to take that back. We're not going to use that one. I will have to probably. Where'd you go? Come back here. I want this. Oh, is that why I did that? Live streaming. All right, let's do this instead. So forget that one. Let me see. Let me get rid of that one right now. Remove. Boink. All right, let's do. Let's do this one. Thunder Wizard. I hesitate because I really don't like putting direct email addresses, because then I get all kinds of groupies and looky-loos and stuff like that. It's a waste of my time. I want people to go through channels to get to me. Okay, you can use this one. Okay, that one will work. All right, let's see what else. Easy one does it. Yep. Question, do you work with any other system or deities than the Norse one? So, new to my channel? If you follow my channel and watch my videos, you will see that I do work with multiple systems. If you had bothered to click on some of these links, you'll find that I teach Vedic astrology and that I give Vedic astrological readings, which means I give people mantras and rituals to Vedic deities. So I appreciate the question, but then it stings because it's like this guy hasn't bothered to really watch my videos or follow the links. But yes, I do work with other deity systems. How did I end up with the Norse one? Great question. Go up here to courses.thunderwizard.com. Click on books. Find the Thunder Wizard Path. I tell you in detail. It is such an amazing, engrossing story. I tell you how I was drawn to the gods of my ancestors, how they started working with me, and how I created this amazing, groundbreaking system, which I call the Thunder Wizard Path. So, to answer your question, I won't take up all that time. Otherwise, I could just pull the book out and read it to you. You can read it for yourself. Makes for a great, put it right next to the toilet. It's really good for that. Can I email? You can email. How can I email you? You have to give me your email address, and I'll email you. I like that better. Give me your email. Put it on here, and I'll email you. All right, so no other questions. What else do I want to say? Yeah, the more I'm thinking about it, I really now want to go back to, again, my point for doing this was, number one, I'm going to be moving this weekend, so I won't have time for live stuff this weekend, probably. Number two was, I was thinking about the chakras and Kundalini and the runes, and I started coming up with this, and now I'm realizing that I've already come up with a model for this, and that is the sine wave, where it goes like this and bounces back and forth, and I've already taught that on the runes. So that's probably why it didn't work 100%. I'm still open to the possibility, but it doesn't make sense to have multiple models to work from. So if you're interested in that, go to courses.thunderwizard.com and look for the spell of the 9 knots, because I teach how to do that in that. That's a really powerful system where you use all 9 directions, and you can open them up, and so you can use the runes in that way as well. Using the sine wave and using all the 9 directions. It's a really powerful way of doing that. Question, Moses Collins, are people's ancestors their own past lives or no? How do I know? I mean, that's such a, again, whenever I get these really general, huge, generalized questions, I can tell that you're just sort of throwing things out. You're not really asking me a question. It's fun to talk to me, and you're enjoying I appreciate that, and you're coming up with things to ask me questions. Do you really give a crap? I don't give a crap. How important is that to you? I want you to go deeper with your questions. I want you to spend more time on my channel, watch more of what I teach, really start doing the practices. Then you'll have deeper questions that will make me excited. But my first answer is that doesn't make a lot of sense. That would mean that every single dead person is me. I'm my own ancestor. I mean, I could be my own ancestor. But really, it's just kind of the kind of questions somebody asks when they've been sitting and smoking weed. Wow, man, I wonder if, do you think that, I'm my own ancestor, man? Whoa, man, my fingers can touch everything but themselves, man. Reminds me of that kind of question. All right, so so-and-so is going to be in touch, I guess. Yeah. All right, so I don't see a whole lot of questions here anymore. I think we're done with the questions. I've run out of things to say because I'm just sitting around pretending that I'm stoned, which tells you that I've lost interest in whatever we were talking about. So I think we're going to call it an evening. The links are up here for a reason, people. Please use them. The resources are there. This YouTube channel is not everything that I offer. It's just merely the window to answer questions, especially for people who are following and doing the exercises and following the teaching. But it's really just an opportunity to let you know, in case you're out there looking for something. You don't know what you're looking for. It's all up here in all these things, whether you want to read books, whether you want to do practices, whether you want in-depth teaching, whether you want certification. Do you want to get certified in rune readings and make money as a rune reader? Do you want to be certified as an astrologer? Do you want to start working with me one-on-one? You can go to thunderwizard.com for that. Do you want high-level teachings? Are you just curious? Take a look at all those links to see what you can use that for. I've made it my life's mission to get as much tools and information out there to as many people as possible who want to learn and to grow. So take a look at that. All right. Another question popped up. Koyu Moon question. Hi Koyu Moon, I gave you a hard time a couple of videos ago, didn't I? I'm glad to see you're still back. Do you think grieving someone's physical death is human nature? Of course I do. I mean, if you've watched my channel, if you go back a couple of years, I'm sobbing on live stream because it's going to make me cry now. My fiance passed away. The love of my life, the ultimate, the most beautiful being that has ever existed, died. I still am not done. Just last night, I was, looking at stuff, and I looked at her pictures and her photos and the video I had of her, and I cried for probably half an hour. I'm wanting to kill myself. I hate this place. Why can't I be with the most beautiful being in the world? So it's really healthy. If you don't do that, it's not healthy. In some cultures, people will mourn and cry for 40 days. In fact, you should. You should mourn. Take time off of work and just mourn, cry. Do rituals, do chanting, cry, and do it for 40 days. Get it out, get at least what you can out of your system. Very normal and healthy. Samantha Turner Figueroa, do you do readings? Yes, I do. Go to courses.thunderwizard.com. You can find the kind of reading that you would like. Do you want rune readings? Do you want astrology readings? Do you just want a personal interaction? You can have a personal consultation with me. All the links for that are right up there. And possibly harmful to our bodies. You mean mourning? No, it's not harmful at all. What's harmful is not mourning. You want to know the cause of cancer? It's, among other things, not grieving and crying, not scream crying it out. You just keep that stuffed inside. It'll get into the organs and kill you. So no, the opposite is true. Have all of your feelings. What do I teach? What I teach is, here's enlightenment. You want to know what enlightenment is? It's not all the garbage you're being taught. Enlightenment is not reaching the light body and being free from all feelings and no problems and everything is love and light and talking like this. That is not enlightenment. That's denial and or delusion. Enlightenment is only one thing. Having all of your feelings, positive and negative, comfortable and uncomfortable, and having the consciousness to know what the constructive action is that you must take. Enlightenment is knowing what actions to take and having every feeling that exists within you. And you are filled with love and hate, happiness and sadness, varying levels all the time. That's what being human is. That's why I love being a shaman, because shamans are about balancing. It's a balancing act. That's true shamanism. This idea of reaching nirvana and having no problems, this is a very new thing in spirituality. By relatively new, meaning only a couple thousand years old. Before that, there was no such thing. That's why in our ancestry we have these things called fairy tales, and in fairy tales there's the good witch and the bad witch. Nowadays, anybody who has spiritual powers is seen as enlightened. But back in the day, just because you had spiritual powers, that didn't mean you were enlightened. That didn't mean you were safe or loving. You knew when you went to go see the wizard, you had to be careful because you didn't know what he was going to do. He might curse you, he might bless you, you have no idea. He's just a guy who has a lot of power. Okay, so now we get to it. So Koya Moon, see, you see now do the other things that I say to you, Koya Moon, does this start making sense? I feel I grieve too much sometimes. There's something else going on. Grieving for somebody and being depressed are two different things. I don't know you, but I get the sense you're codependent. Do you like to indulge in chemical substances to alter your feelings? Could be wrong about that one. Koya Moon, you could probably do well with some counseling. Either with somebody like me or with an actual psychologist. If that's, if we're talking about normal grieving and we're talking about, that you have this depressive nature, something else is up. You need to get some help. Maybe you need to get to a grieving group where you can be with other people who are grieving. I've thought about that myself. I just haven't even, I'm moving again, but I've thought about doing that myself. You can't, here's the thing, a brain surgeon cannot do brain surgery on themselves. They have to go find another brain surgeon who will climb into the back of their head and do the surgery. You can't heal yourself. You need people. You need mentors, counselors. We all do. I do. I still have my teacher. I'm still waiting to hear back from him. Easy does it. Question, why 40 days? Heard that before with mantras. Well, 40 days is something that's found in multiple sorry, I'm getting tired. Multiple indigenous mythologies. Like, even this is one thing that the Bible got right, which it got from an earlier tradition, which is 40 days and 40 nights. The reason why it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, that represents being drowned by your instincts and your emotions. And it represents, after the flood, coming to an awareness. It takes 40 days to do a mantra because of that very reason. It takes at least 40 days for a spiritual, well, mantras in specific, it takes 40 days for the mantra to get into the unconscious mind, which is what being drowned in the sea is, the sea of your unconscious. It takes 40 days for the mantra to get into the unconscious and bring to your conscious awareness whatever it needs to do to you. Some takes a lot longer than 40 days. But that's why, a minimum of 40 days for that to happen. That's why people have to grieve for 40 days. It takes a minimum to get out of that state of grief. And that's about right. Now that I'm thinking about it, when my fiance passed away, I went through a month, probably more like 40 days, where I had this fatigue that went all the way into my bones. I can't explain it. If you've ever lost a partner, a spouse, you know what I'm talking about. There's this fatigue that goes way into the bones, and I couldn't move. And of course I was sad and depressed and all the rest of it. It took me 40 days to come out of that. There's a reason for that. Ash B, question, are there sound frequencies or musical notes that line up with the runes? I don't know. I honestly don't know. My first instinct is to poo-poo that because it sounds so new agey and all that, but to be honest, I don't know. I can't answer that. The tone gainer. What does that mean? What is how does gaining tones help you? I don't understand. The tone gainer. Question, which rune are good to chant for mental clarity and decision making? All of them. I have started to read the Shamanic Secret Commandment for a Perfect Life, and I like chanting runes while meditating. I would chant all of them and find the ones that really work for you. Kenaj is a good one. Manaj is another one. But to be honest, they will all give you mental clarity. That's what they're there for. The question is, which rune do you need? Only you can figure that out. Do some, those are two. You can start with those. Experience is the greatest teacher there is. All right, that's it for me. I am going to call it an afternoon. I'm really glad you guys were there. That's it. I'm making a move. Wish me well. Thank the gods. I'm leaving this place, and I'm leaving behind the worst holiday season of my entire life, all things considered. This was the loneliest, most painful. Oh my God. I hope there's some real lessons behind this, because holy crap, this was so lonely and horrifically painful. I got my ass handed to me. Somebody really, a couple of people actually did a real number on me. So anyway, another question just popped up. Let me see what happens here. I think I have a Vietnamese flute. What style or note can I play while doing the light elf ritual? I don't know. Just play the flute. Elves love flutes. That's all I can tell you. All right, that's it for me. I got myself all sad talking about how horrible this has been. But I'm moving back to my favorite place so far in the world. Back up to where I was. I'm going to be so happy. You'll see a big change in me most likely in the next couple of days when I get to my new place. So anyway, you may or may not see me this weekend. And if not, that's why. It's because I'm moving. All right, guys. Thanks. Talk to you on the flip-flop.